You are listening to the Tricer Podcast, where we talk all things hunting, gear, and the great outdoors. Before we begin, let's start things out right and put God first. Lord Jesus, I thank you for Tricer, and I ask that you can use this podcast as a way to bring joy to all of our listeners. We lay Tricer and this podcast at your feet. Amen. Dude, where's it coming hot on this one? I just got back from Sheep Show. My brain is fried. And my buddy Chad told me to have his friend Shane on the podcast because Shane races burros across the deserts of New Mexico. And I'm like, that's the podcast I want to do because I don't want to impart like any knowledge today on like my hunting skills or the industry. I want a fun, laid back burro racing freaking podcast. So Shane, what's up, dude? Tell me about you. Let's just do this thing. What's going hot, bro?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm Shane Weigand. I'm the, leader, founder, brainchild behind New Mexico Pack Burros. And we're a group that essentially does really cool backcountry things with burros, including running across the mountains and obviously, hunting and fishing and stuff. We take them up in the backcountry in the wilderness. But one of the things we do is we go for crazy ultra runs with a burro.
So how does one become the leader of a burro racing tribe? Like what yeah. I don't understand. Like, so what is a burro? It's not a mule. It's just a donkey. Like the donkeys that I see all over Arizona. Is it one of those donkeys? Like, what is a burro?
Yeah, good question. So donkey and burro, they're the same thing. The funny joke is always that, a burro speaks Spanish, right? That's the difference. But it just depends where you're from, whether you say burro or donkey. There's three sizes of burros or donkeys. So there's mammoths, which are going to be like the big ones that they use to make mules, that they'll breed a mammoth jack donkey to a horse mare that'll make a mule. And then you've got standard, which are like the ones that run around Arizona, Southern California. Mm-hmm. That's the standard size burro. They're just a normal size donkey. And then you've got miniatures, which are like the specially bred, like little adorable things you see at a pet and zoo that are like knee high. Those are miniatures. So those are kind of the three types of donkeys or burros that you have.
So when did you get your first burro?
Yeah. So I was looking at getting llamas, right? Or goats.
So expensive for llamas now, dude. That is a racket right there.
Stupid. It is stupid expensive. So I was looking at hand-me-down llamas from the guy on Craigslist or Facebook that was trying to get rid of one. So I had it was like 2015 or something, and I had a brutal elk pack out from the Gila here in New Mexico, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I need either llamas or goats. And wasn't really a horse guy at that point or equine person. So I went and looked at some llamas. They were all kind of like backcountry crazy. And then goats just never really kind of hit it off for me. I was like, goats, this isn't going to work. So I was like, well, I live in New Mexico. I was like, donkeys and burros. I was seeing these pictures, all over historic New Mexico black and white photos of donkeys and burros carrying stuff around. And there was like one blog post on this tack manufacturer's website about packing with donkeys. And I was like, well, I'm gonna do this. So I found a burro off Craigslist. I just met a lady, now my wife, that had quite a bit of horse experience, so I wasn't going completely blind into this. But I bought a donkey for $200 off Craigslist from the South Valley of Albuquerque, which if you're from the Southwest, you know that Albuquerque is super sketch. So this is like the sketchiest of the sketchiest places in Albuquerque.
So you bought like a tweaker donkey off Craigslist.
100%. Yeah.
Did you trade tattoos for it, or?
That would have been a better deal. Yeah. So I got this donkey out of somebody's backyard. And then another one was just from I don't want to say old lady down the street, but an old lady down the street that had this donkey that was pretty well trained in general. And she's like, yeah, you can just have him and do stuff with him. So I got these two donkeys. I literally put them in my half-acre backyard for a few months until I found a better place that I could rent.
I'm sure your neighbors love that. Aren't they obnoxious?
So a little bit. So they'll bray. They'll bray first thing in the morning. 5:30, whatever, sunrise. And that's about it. And then anytime a car comes into the driveway, so if I pull up my pickup, they'll bray. But that's about it. So not much difference than somebody's chickens or something.
Okay.
So yeah, got these two donkeys, and then I found about the sport called pack burro racing, and super got into that. And now I pack and I go over the mountains with them.
So you get these two donkeys, and like don't donkeys live like 100? They live a long time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like so like
Go
go ahead.
No, so donkeys. That's the cool thing about donkeys, right? I'm trying not to, when we do this podcast, I'm going to try not to make a lot of comparisons between llamas and goats and horses because they're all good.
Oh, dude, I want you to offend, like Mark Livesay is a good friend of mine. Like I want you to just talk about how much llamas suck, and then Lampers loves goats, how much goats suck. I want like, 'cause it is like this tribal thing with all of you guys where it's like donkeys are the best. So yeah, you just describe why you use donkeys for doing this stuff. So like you get these donkeys, and they didn't come, you got it from an old lady. I can't imagine this is a burro racing pack donkey. This is a donkey in someone's yard that they probably got when they were a kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So so the donkeys, I ended up going and doing my first race. So tell you like what a pack burro race is. So back in the day, right? So back in the 1800s, there are two miners, supposedly, this is the legend. Two miners struck gold up on the hill at the same time, and they had to race back to town to stake their claim at the claims office, and they took their burros. So that was the first pack burro race. In reality, after World War II, none of the young men came back to these mining towns in Colorado and in the Southwest after World War II. So the economies were just trashed. Places like Leadville and Creed, Fairplay, Tombstone, Arizona, places now that are kind of like thriving tourists and outdoorsy places. They weren't that, so they needed something to provide income. They had a bunch of burros, and trail running was just kind of starting to be a thing. So they started off these races specifically in Fairplay and Leadville, Colorado. I think were some of the first in the 40s, and legit races though. Like folks are doing these in jeans and 1950s boots and running 20 some miles up to this pass and back. So those were the first races. Since then, it's absolutely exploded, especially in the last few years. There's races in New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, California, Tennessee, all over the place. And essentially what you do, you run with your burro. So think of like your dog on the lead. Same thing. You've got a 15-foot lead rope. On the burro, you have a pack saddle, which carries a gold pan, a pick, and a shovel. And that's a throwback. That's a throwback kind of homage to the mining days that started the sport.
Okay.
So, and they're anywhere from 5 miles all the way to 30 miles. So some of them are straight ultra marathons. It is the coolest sport you have never heard of.
So, I mean, can you just pick up any donkey from an old lady's yard and start running 30 miles from it? Or
yeah. So I was going to tell you about,
I
was going to tell you about my first race. So I get this South Valley donkey and then this old lady's donkey. The old lady's donkey, Cisco. He's this black, kind of normal sized donkey. Really great dude. Great with kids. Just great packer. Can do anything. But he's like 20. He's not going anywhere fast. I got this white donkey out of the South Valley. She's pretty fast. And so I decided to race her. So we signed up for a 10-mile race in Creed, Colorado. So we did about a month and a half of training, which was just
you're traveling around the country to do these things. Like you're a real donkey racer. Okay, so you're going to Colorado. First race, Colorado.
So first race in Colorado. This is, 2018 or something. We go to Creed, Colorado, just beautiful mining town. It's a 10-mile course, and what the course looks like is always the donkey races are always usually a mass start. So you'll have like 100 teams, a team being one burro and one runner together. And they'll just take off. So gunshot start, you have 100 burros running down Main Street. And so it's about a 3-mile flat, 2.5-mile flat at about 8,000 feet elevation. So there's already no oxygen. From there, you have like another 3-mile climb, or I guess it'd be 2-mile straight climb up to like 10 or 11,000 feet, and then back down and then back to Main Street. So 10-mile race, couple thousand feet of climbing. So me and my badass little burro, Julia, Julia and I take off. We're leading the pack for 3 miles up to this climb. It is amazing. I'm just like, This is the Craigslist donkey. Yeah, this is Craigslist Seabiscuit. So she is awesome. We were winning this thing. I'm like, this sport's gonna be super easy. There's also usually like a big cash prize, like $500, $1,000. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm gonna have a great time tonight. I'm already planning what I'm gonna do that night with the money that I win. Yep. And we get to the big uphill section, and it starts to get real rocky. It's kind of turning from like county road into like mountainy road. It's not quite 2-track yet, but like the rocks are starting to get pretty gnarly. Um, she lives her whole life in a sand backyard in Albuquerque.
Oh, no.
Her hooves were like mine and yours feet. Like if we decided to go take off running down a rocky road, they just started to get super abused, bruised, and messed up. So, anyways, we went from first place, I think, all the way to, I think there were 60 some donkeys in that race. So I think we ended up second to last coming into town. So we had 60 some teams pass us in the next 7 miles. The only reason I did not get last place is because I didn't know there was a prize for last place, and the lady behind me just kept going slower and slower because she wanted the free pair of shoes that you got for being last ass. So, yeah, major ego check to start off my burro racing career. So, really, really cool sport.
So, that's your first time doing it. Now, I assume, are you running the same donkey now, 7 years later?
So Julia, she's kind of my reserve burro. My wife runs her a lot. A lot of times we'll have people that are new to the sport jump in with her. She runs a really, really good, like 10, 30, 11-minute mile. She's got this beautiful slow trot that just keeps on forever. And she's got a great amount of heart. Like she'll push and she'll run with you. Right now I've got a different burro. His name's Comet. 2 years ago, I got him from the Bureau of Land Management's Wild Horse and Burro program. So he actually came from Western Arizona, kind of like the Lake Havasu area.
Yep, they're everywhere out there.
Yeah,
I have a place in the lower river in Yuma, and they are just donkeys everywhere.
Yep. So yeah, he came from kind of thereabouts. He is a fast guy. He will. He's really, really fast. He'll take off at a 7-minute mile at. Yeah, just crazy fast. What's really cool is, so I've had domestic burros and I've had BLM wild burros. My domestic burro is very cautious around rocks and steep downhill stuff. Comet, my BLM burro, he will just, if you want him to, if you ask him to, he will just bail off the side of an embankment and be like, I hope everything's good. We'll find out. Like he's very much just a kind of just a backcountry skiing dude. Like we'll figure it out as we go. So that's a lot of fun. The only thing is he's a little more timid. So, you go out, you do these races, you're running for hours by yourself out in the middle of nowhere doing these big loops, and you come back to town, 18, 19 miles later. When you come back into town with him, he sometimes he'll get a little antsy, a little anxious because suddenly you're running straight back into a bunch of people again. So when you're running down, which is fair, we're running down Main Street and there's like 1,000 people. It's kind of like Tour de France, where you got people lining the streets. So he can get kind of timid, I guess, is the point that I'm making.
Okay, so you're running. I'm not even like, I'm starting to grasp this. So are you doing like, are you running the 30 mile ones now?
Yeah, I've done up to 29 miles. So,
and what are you guys averaging on that, like, mile? You were telling me your donkey's running a 7-minute mile. Like, that means you're running a 7-minute mile because the donkey's not doing it by himself.
Yeah.
So are you doing like a 9-minute 30-mile race, or what are you doing like on these trails? What are you doing? Like,
yeah. Very competitive times, whether you're with a donkey or not. So what makes a burro race really tough is the first 2 miles out of town is a god awful sprint. It is just the gun goes off and you're just running for your life.
Trying to separate yourself from the pack, right? Like trying to get yourself.
Exactly. Yep. Get lined out if that's where you want to be. So I mean, it's like a race. It's like any normal race, right? There's different waves, and some folks walk and hike the whole thing. But if you want to be part of that first group, your first mile, it's not uncommon to be somewhere between 5:30 and 6:30. You are just all out sprinting. You're trying to put distance between you and the other folks. So
you're running 5-minute miles with a donkey.
Yes. Yeah. It's that elevation too, right? So you're in Leadville, Colorado, which the starting line is 10,000 feet. You're going to go up to 13,000 feet during this race. I think it's 13,600 is Mosquito Pass. But so it's just, it's insane. It's a really cool sport.
Dude, there are some like stupid sports in the Olympics. I would much rather watch donkey racing. Like I'm hearing this and I'm like, dude, if we could somehow watch this, like, seems like I'd be into this sport. So you're running that. So like, are you now like a premier donkey racing athlete then it sounds like? I mean, it sounds like you're kind of like up there. You're running 6 minute miles with a donkey. Are you like one in this very small community? Are you like the dude now or what?
I am. I'm not the dude. There is a dude. The dude is out of Leadville. He runs he's an incredible athlete, and he runs a little burro called Buttercup. And Buttercup's maybe like a 30-some-inch donkey, just a teeny little donkey. And that stupid thing keeps kicking all our ass. I don't know how they
literally
yeah.
kicking your asses because that's what you're running.
All pun intended. Like it is. I don't know how they do it. They're amazing athletes and they're an amazing team. So a lot of it's teamwork, right? So you really got to learn a lot. It's a sport that's not like anything else. Like you can go from trail running, maybe into triathlon, into some other sports, and there's a fair bit of crossover. Beyond the running part of it in burro racing, that's where the relationship or the correlation ends. You have to learn how to motivate this animal to run because if the one thing about a donkey is right, they're not in the flight side of the fight or flight spectrum, like a horse is. Donkeys very cautious, very want to think about things. So if they decide they're not going to want to run the remaining 9 miles of your race, you two are going to walk it out, and you're going to be back at midnight. So yeah, you got to learn animal behavior. You got to learn about what your donkey's motivations are. Trust is a huge deal with them. They're very big thinking animals. So it's important that you spend a lot of time training with them. They get to know your quirks, you get to know their quirks, so you both can like run as a team on race day.
Are you bringing like a pannier of like? Are you getting water for these animals halfway through? Or they just do 30 miles no water?
Yeah, so they might in the longer races. Trying to think, most of the race courses that are over 13 miles have some sort of stream or water crossing, or usually multiple ones. They'll sometimes stop and drink. My experience is they won't. They're incredibly desert adapted animals.
They're used to the desert, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot going on. People have trouble, or people get dehydrated all the time on races, right? We forget to drink the water. So burros, they're like, well, we'll just finish this one out, and then they'll drink like 5 gallons of water. They have time to digest it and sit on it. So no, you don't really carry much other than your own nutrition and hydration for yourself. You might carry a rain slicker, but no, not much else other than the gold pan, pick, and shovel on their little pack saddle.
That's awesome. So now you're working with. I'm curious. I don't know if I want to keep going racing or if I want to go into wild horses and burros because you're actually because I have like mixed emotions, right, about horses, right? Like I feel like. Yeah. It's an invasive animal, and I feel like we should open them up and kind of take them off the landscape, right? Like as an animal, because you're just destroying mule deer populations. And I see it like over in Arizona. I see them run, and wherever horses and deer are, the horses are winning. They're running them off. They're eating 100%. All their vegetation. They're running them off the water. They're bad for sheep, bad for all that. But at the same time, like everyone loves a freaking horse.
Yeah,
like it's this weird thing, and it's like this weird. And the crazy thing about the horse thing is, like, honestly, most of the like conservative hunting people are the people who own these horses as well. Like, it's like this weird emotion with it. So, what are your? I'm curious your thoughts on the wild burros. How you got involved with the BLM stuff? Like, you're actually taking a wild burro and using it, which is kind of shocking because they are very. I've been around burros my whole life at the river, wild burros, and they're not an animal that you're like going up and grabbing, like they're gonna run from you. Yeah. Like this is. Give me some thoughts on this, on the whole wild burro wild horse thing.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting coming from my perspective too, because I actually have a degree in wildlife management. So, I work for one of the big big natural resource agencies. So, and then I'm also involved in like rescuing, some of these BLM animals and burros and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think, I totally agree. They are obviously way overpopulated. I think either side of the debate, the argument, everyone's going to agree that there are a ton of animals. Now, how to resolve that? Is that's when the emotions in your side or whoever side of it you're on comes into play. I think the adoption process we've had. If you're not familiar, kind of how the wild horse and burro program works, at least from the adoption side, is So you can adopt. Let me think if I can say this correctly. There's, I think, 3 different ways that you can get an animal. One, you can adopt one from one of the BLM auctions. So there's online auctions or there's in-person auction sales that you can go to. So you can go to, where they'll ship 10 burros and 50 horses to someplace in Idaho or Tennessee or Wisconsin, whatever. You can go to one of those local events. You can also do the online stuff. You can also go to some of their holding facilities and prison facilities.
I want to hear about the holding facilities too when we get to for sure.
So you can go to any one of those. You can get a burro for I think $125. Then they get cheaper the more you get. So for like $75, you get a couple more. The buy one get one specials. But those are for all wild, untrained burros. So like you're getting that thing fresh.
Now is that what your burro is that you got? Your Comet?
So I went through a different program. I went through what they called the Trainer Incentive Program, the TIP program. So, the wild burros, that's a lot to take on, especially if you don't have any equine experience. The middle part of that is what they called the Trainer Incentive Program. It's actually going through some changes right now. So I don't know if that name will hold true, but it uses a middle person. So the BLM will ship these wild animals to a trainer. So they'll ship them to, a horse trainer, wherever. And then you, as an adopter, so like me, when I went to get Comet, I put my application through this trainer. I paid my $125. And what that trainer did is over 90 days that they halter broke this animal, was able to put a halter on it. They picked up all 4 feet of the animal and then also taught it to load in a trailer. So they have those basic 3 things to what they call gentle an animal. So when I got Comet, he had at least been touched by a human, which is a big, like giant first step. But it's a really good program. The BLM will pay the trainers, I think, about $1,000 per burro to do that. And it makes that barrier to entry for, just somebody getting into this way lower, because they're a lot easier to handle. So those are kind of the adoption programs in a nutshell.
So BLM's paying $1,000 per animal. You're paying $125 for the animals. So our conservation dollars are going towards potentially an invasive species.
Yeah. I guess it'd be your tax monies, right? So your tax money is going to fund the Bureau of Land Management. That being said, I'll add some caveats in there. There's so the TIP program went through a bunch of changes in late 24, 25. It was all run through this nonprofit called Mustang Heritage Foundation. They recently lost, forgive me if I don't know the exact terminology, if somebody's super familiar with this issue, but they lost the contract to be the intermediary for those trainers. The new program, a new nonprofit picked it up called Forever Branded. They are super working burro friendly, because a lot of those organizations, some of them just want to see those animals put in sanctuaries where they're not messed with. Other organizations want to see those animals have homes, go to working homes. Like obviously any animal I get in through my place is going to have a job. I think that's very important to me. So, so some nonprofit money is going into it. Your taxpayer money is going into it. Obviously, the adoption process, that was the point I was trying to make, is the adoption programs as it sits right now is not pulling enough animals off the landscape to deal with the overpopulation. There are literally thousands of animals sitting in, call it reserve, and holding facilities that the BLM owns and leases. So like you can go to a ranch in Oklahoma and some guy's got 1,000 acres and he has a contract with the Bureau of Land Management. He may hold, 500 head of wild horses on his place. You're not going to see that, but they're out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I want to get to, is just kind of understand that, because you're a hands-on guy. It's a controversial topic, right? It really is. Like, it's like, do you want to fly over? And it's like, if it was a squirrel,
sure,
we wouldn't care. But it's a horse, and like, that's like the thing that made the West. Whether you're cowboys or Indians, they were on freaking horses, right? Like, it's just like we all grown up with horses. We all love horses. They're beautiful. They're the freaking, Budweiser horse. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's tough. But at the same time, like, talk about some of these pens that are full of horses in New Mexico and Arizona, like, in South Texas. Like, there are pens where it's literally just crowded animals just shoved into these pens, correct?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I'm official spokesman for BLM, but thousands, if not tens of thousands, in holding right now. I don't know what the adoption. If somebody wants to like sit and Google this, I'm sure all the numbers are out there. What the adoption?
I'll just
annual
pretend you're an
adoption
expert. Just say numbers. We won't fact check you. Don't worry.
Yeah. But it's cool to be so thinking on the really neat side of that. I think one of the biggest draws to getting a burro donkey over mule or llama or whatever, or goats, is that the history and the cool culture attached to the burros. So one thing people don't think about is, like you mentioned the iconic horse in the Western movies we all grew up with. What people don't realize is in the 1800s, 1700s, you had to be pretty wealthy to own a horse. So you either had to be a warrior, you had to be a hunter, you had to be a tradesman, a trapper. A horse was not cheap. What was cheap was a donkey or a burro. So you see all these pictures of these blue collar folks, out across the Southwest. What do they always have their goods on? It's a donkey, whether that be firewood or prospecting supplies. All those people who came west mining in kind of the southern portion of the United States, they all had donkeys. They were cheap, they're versatile, all the same things that they are today. So that culture is super neat. Super neat to have one, because as soon as you get one, you start to see burros and donkeys everywhere. You'll go into some old saloon and it's like, oh, there's a donkey, there's a donkey, there's a donkey. It's pretty neat to be a part of and to continue on.
Yeah, if it's me, man. Jesus rode on a donkey, so I'm down with the donkeys. It is funny though, what a second class citizen the donkey is or the burro is to the horse, because I never even thought of that. I mean, I understand there's wild burros everywhere in Southern California. Like you get out into the deserts or in Arizona. I mean, they're just everywhere. You'll gloss up more donkeys than you do deer in many of my places I hunt. But I never really thought of them in the same, they're never in the same breath as the horses. Mm-hmm. It's always the wild horses, the wild Mustang. It's always the wild Mustang, right? So we talk about the Mustang.
Yeah.
It sounds cooler.
It's weird it doesn't get the same fanfare, because they were still really popular up into the 1950s and 60s. The Colorado Mountain Club, which is probably one of the longest running mountain clubs out there, up until the 50s, they used burros all over Colorado for their travels. I think horses got a lot more attainable, and I think lightweight backpacking gear. There just more people just started carrying stuff on their backs. And then horses and mules started to become the reserve for like the big outfits, the big outfitters, where you need to carry thousands of pounds. Like it would take you, I don't know how many burros to carry in a full,
drop
three tent outfitter tent into the Frank Church Wilderness in Idaho. It's silly. It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm excited because I've never used stock, and this year I'm going to go hunt with some of the Grady guys, and I should be using some Olivise's llamas this year. And you don't hear a lot about you are seeing a big push to this llama movement and the goat thing. Like Lampert's using these goats now, and it is funny how they're always giving jabbing at each other. Right, everyone's kind of gets their team and they get in that corner, but as I'm getting older, I'm not old by any means, but I'm pushing 40 now. And my knees are starting to hurt me after coming out. I spent, 80 days in the backcountry this year or something, and a lot of long miles, and my knees are starting to swell up, after those. And I could see the benefit in having I kind of feel like maybe one mule would probably do what I needed to do. Right. If I said one mule, I could probably bring that mule with me. And I taught my buddy Gavin Swinson, he hunts at a certain place in New Mexico for elk, and they're 8 miles deep, and it's deep. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to throw away his spots, but I'm man, if he had a mule, it would probably help a lot. So what does that barrier to entry look like for getting one of these? Could I just go get one of these wild mules for $125? It's already broken. Cause I know the llamas are $6,000. Yeah. If I had to, obviously I live in kind of in the eastern city of San Diego, I'm not getting a mule where I am. Right. Yeah. But if I want to get one of these mules, it's already broken for $125. What does that barrier to entry look like to get that thing up in the mountains hunting with me?
Yeah. So just quick clarification. So you've got you kind of four types of pack animals, right? So you've got your goats, you've got Caro llamas. I don't know how to actually say that. Then you've got horses and mules, and then you've got burros. So Horses and mules, there's a reason why, the big outfitting groups still use them. They can carry a lot of weight. Once they're trained, they're awesome. You don't have to walk, X, Y, 100 different great reasons. So
You're not riding a donkey, correct?
no, not your normal size
Okay.
donkey. If you want to get
Okay.
if you get a real large one, you could.
Okay.
So that kind of leaves us, the three walking types: llamas, goats, and burros.
Mhm.
The nice thing about all three is they're all relatively low barrier to entry. None of them are going to kill you or hurt you. You can pull any one of them around with a half-ton pickup, and you can get by with a relatively small space to keep them in, as compared to like a horses or mules. What's cool about burros is, the market on burros is still really untouched. So you could either go onto Facebook Marketplace or a rescue organization in Arizona or California and find a donkey that's been handled pretty well, somewhere in that $200 to $600 range, maybe even $1,000 if it's got some decent pack training. For a llama, a similarly trained llama, you're looking at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Oh, it's like $6,000 for a good llama now. It's crazy.
Yeah. If you look at some of the like backcountry logistics, they've done an incredible job breeding great llamas. But they are $5,000 to $6,000. Goats. To get into the nitty gritty of it, all the animals are good at something. But like one thing, I get a call from a lot of goat guys. I get a lot of calls from goat people, many more than llamas. And the thing is with goats is they got a short lifespan, 70 years or whatever. You really can't pack them full weight until they're like 4. So you've got this narrow window of use for them. It takes a lot of goats to pack out an elk, unless you've got some giants like Mark Wonke has or whatever. Maybe the Lampers have some bigger ones. You have to have quite a few in your string. So you have to have, up and comings. You've got your retirement ones.
Yep.
Lots of different things. That being said, they can go some pretty cool places, and everybody says you can eat them, I guess, when they get to a certain age. They list that as a benefit. I don't know if you've eaten goat, but the whole
I've been to Kenya. I've been to Africa, a bunch of other. So yeah, I've eaten goat.
Okay.
It's very popular. Overseas, Middle East, they eat goat. So I've eaten goat quite a few times.
But they're meat goats. They're not eating 8-year-old goats.
No, I would be chase gross.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I've cooked goat a couple times at the house. I've got friends that have farms. The whole house smells like goat when you cook goat.
Yep.
But yeah, llamas are cool. The only downsides to llamas I see is, 1, they're really expensive. 2, you have to get up every morning and look at a llama. The burros. Here's all the crazy awesome things about burros. So they're affordable. 1, you can pay anywhere from $100 to $600 to get a pretty gentle burro. There's a number of rescues out there that do a great job, and they have minimal adoption fees. Anywhere a couple $100, you get yourself a very gentle burro or donkey that you could probably hand to a kid, depending on which rescue you're going through. They're attainable. They're everywhere. It doesn't matter what state you are. There are donkeys. So then there's probably a donkey market. And lastly, they're just safe. So like, I've got a little kid coming up. They're great with kids. They live a long time. So the burros I have now will see my kid graduate high school, which is really neat. So you'll get a super, compared to goats, especially compared to goats. If you start packing a burro at 4 years old, I packed my last one. He was in his mid-20s when he died. That year he died. He packed a mountain goat out of Montana. He packed elk out of Wyoming, and then passed away that winter from essentially the donkey equivalent to diabetes. So he had a whole bunch of issues. So he died early, but was being a badass right up until he died. So
could you put like when you go to the Grand Canyon, you ride burros down or mules down to the Grand Canyon?
So mules.
Mules. Okay, so like you couldn't put say you've got a 10-year-old kid, could you throw him onto a donkey and pack him in? Or
100%. Yeah.
So you could small people, you could throw them on the donkey, bring them in with you on some of these trips. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So if you got young kids, about the time where they can start to do bigger distances is when they get too big to ride a donkey. So pack weight, right? So top 3 questions I get about burros. The number one is
you have to crush everybody on this one.
Yeah. So the number one question I get all the time is how much can they carry, right? So burros anywhere from 60 to 100 pounds. I give a range, right?
Oh, that's Oh, that's what I thought.
So more than you think. I've pushed them higher than 100 pounds when they're really fit and we're going on multiple trips. I've also had them way lower than 100 pounds where if we are off trail and we are bushwhacking it and we're climbing a couple thousand feet into some hellhole, yeah, you're not going to have 100 pounds on them. That being said, you compare it to some other animals. Obviously, mules and horses, they can carry 200 pounds, day and night, not an issue. They can get away with more because they're so much larger. Their sheer size is just bigger. So 20% of 1,000 pounds is a lot more than 20% of 500 pounds. It's a size deal.
Yeah.
Goats, you said you were going to go on a trip, spring bear hunt with goats?
Yeah. Well, probably. I think Liz volunteered up his llamas, so we might take some of his llamas on this one. I'm not sure if he's going to go with this, but yeah, llamas.
So it'll be cool to see what they carry. What people don't realize is a lot of the really well-bred llamas now are big. They're big. They're not the ones you're getting on Craigslist in backyards.
No, they're big, and I think they're carrying like that 60 to 100 pound range that you're talking about, maybe more in that range. I'm curious though, like I feel like one of the draws to llamas and goats, especially llamas, is like you don't got to worry about them. You just string them up and you're done. You get there, you don't really have to worry about water too much. Yeah. Like when you bring horses in, you're bringing in feed, you're bringing in hay, you're bringing in, you know what I mean? Yeah. When you're bringing your burros in, are you having to bring in hay with you and bring in grain, and what are you doing there?
So really good question. Supplemental water and feed. So burros are desert animals, right? So they can live on pretty poor forage, but they can't live on air. So they got to have decent grass wherever your camp is. So when I go to camp, I'll use a story as an example here. So last year, or 2 summers ago, we did about 200 miles of the Colorado Trail. So we walked with the burros from Denver to Leadville. And as we pick our camps, the 2 big priorities are water and food. So we try to find a place with a fair bit of grass, and then with close access to water. I hate hauling water. It is such a pain in the butt. When I'm hunting or hiking, I never want to deal with water.
It weighs so much. I do so much desert hunting, and so many times I'm having to carry in 3 gallons of water. All the times I'll bring water in and store it and then go back. You know what I mean? It's from scouting. Like water sucks. 8 pounds per gallon. Just never forget that. It's a lot of weight.
Yep. So they're not going to drink as much water as a horse or a mule would. You kind of think about that size chart again. That being said, they need water every day. I've had them not drink water every day. Like, I think in the Southwest, you get those monsoons in September during September bow season. I've had them not drink water out of my little bucket for a couple of days just because they're getting it from the grass and stuff for rains, every afternoon or something. But good animal husbandry, you still got to offer it to them every day. They have a lot less health. The ones that come from the wild horse and burro program, they tend to have less health issues than your domestic ones. So if you get one from a rescue, just know that you might have a little more health issues. They haven't had natural selection as the process. So yeah.
So they're pretty. I mean, how big is your string? You carrying 2 dogs? I mean, I don't think you need more than 2, right? You're doing 2, 3. How many are you doing on a hunt? Like we're going out. All right. Let's say I finally draw my Gila tag. Actually, you guys, just everyone listening, don't apply to Mexico this year because I'm applying for the 50th time. So just don't apply this year so I can draw my freaking Gila tag finally. So let's say I finally draw my 16A tag. And I'm like, man, Shane, I want to get some donkeys. How many donkeys am I getting from you? Or how many donkeys should I get? Like what does that look like? You draw that Gila tag. You want to go in 5 miles deep because you want to get that big Gila 340 bull. How many donkeys you bring on that trip?
Yeah. So I've done a number of hunts, the Gila 16B, into the wilderness there. And, so 2, keep it simple. So two
donkeys.
Yep. Okay. So 2, so first thing to know about adopting a donkey. So, Drew, you decided you're going to get donkeys this spring. You can't have just one. They get weird if you get one. They tend to start chewing on the barn and just do weird things. They get super bonded. So, whether it be in the wild or at home, you always see them in pairs, or at least groups. So you're going to get 2 donkeys. 2 donkeys you can expect to carry. If you decide this is going to be a thing what you're going to do in the summertime, you're gonna get them workouts in. You're gonna be responsible with them. Get them in good shape. You can expect them to carry 80, 100 pounds. So which seems like a lot of weight when you're at the trail, especially if you're coming from backpack hunting. You're like, oh my God, like, what do I do with
It
that?
seems like I try and stay under 50. I feel like if I'm backpack hunting, you can't get under 60, 65 pounds. Like, it's just like, it's impossible with food and water to get under 65 pounds. Like, it's just like, especially doing 5 days, food, it just adds up.
Yeah.
So
that seems hunting like by yourself, that style of hunting, a lot of fun because, like, when I'm hunting by myself, usually it's about 50 pounds of gear on both animals, and it's like they can go anywhere with that amount for like all day. And it's like whatever I get, bring myself a bunch of like luxuries. So,
how much are you carrying then? You're carrying like a 20-pound pack. I mean, that's it. A rifle and like some optics.
Yeah. I carry. So I usually just carry my bow and snacks.
Dude, I could go forever if I can carry my bow and snacks. Oh my gosh! Like, I feel like it would just be like I would just be running through the mountains like Cameron Hanes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like, even now, I'm starting to get kind of snobby, where I'll put my like Nalgene and my snacks and like my rainwear just thrown on top of their pack and just kind of latch it down, so I don't have to carry that extra like 2.1 pounds. Like, I'm like, I don't want anything. I was like, I get up twice a day. I have to feed these donkeys, so like right now, I'm not gonna carry shit. It's all on them.
Oh, dude, I'm going to buy a ranch at some point in the next like 10 years. Like, I want to have some property. When I see ranch, it could be 20 acres in San Diego, whatever. I am like, pack animals are definitely on the horizon, right? As I get older, right? Because I want to hunt until I'm like 70, like this style of hunting. This sounds intriguing with the donkeys.
So you said so Drew's getting 2 donkeys. He's gonna
2 donkeys.
2 donkeys. So say you pick him up from a rescue or off Facebook, whatever. You spend about $1,000 for the pair. Then you've got some tack you're gonna buy. Another $1,000 or so. You're gonna buy a pack saddle and some panniers, maybe $1,500. And then you're pretty well all set up. So you're gonna need a trailer. So I started out with just your normal little 2-horse trailer. They call it 2-horse straight load. So it's just they're side by side. They're in there. That's okay. You can get those about for like $2,000 anywhere, and whatever. I don't recommend that anymore. If you can get yourself like a 10 or 12-foot stock trailer, which is just an open trailer, that's much better. Because you can use it hauling for firewood. You can take the kids to college with it. You can use it for a bunch of other stuff. With a 2-horse straight load trailer, it's a horse trailer. And plus, when you are learning as a new animal owner, and the donkey is learning, loading a 2-horse straight load is kind of tough versus just the open space of a cargo style open stock trailer. So yeah, you're gonna have that. It's a bumper pull stock trailer. You're gonna have your half-ton pickup. You can get into 90% of places. You're not gonna do 75 miles an hour down the highway because it is kind of heavy. But you can get anywhere as long as you got a 4.8 5-liter engine. You can go and do anything you want, and all said and done, you're into it for less than $5,000. All that stuff is if you decide this isn't your jam after 2 years, those donkeys, trained pack donkeys, go resale super fast. I've never seen one for sale for more than a couple of days. Same thing with the trailer and all the tack. Trying to find used tack is about impossible, especially for donkeys, because it just holds its value. So it's really easy to get into. The costs are way lower than any of the other animals, goats, llamas, or horses, and it's a lot easier to learn. I think that one of the other very cool parts about burros is that if you decide, like Drew, you decide to go get your ranch, 10 years from now, you just spent the last 5 years learning all about basic equine husbandry. All the pack saddles are the same. The behavior is 90% the same. The feed, the veterinary care, that's all pretty well the same as a horse or mule. So time comes, you're going to get your ranch. You're going to already have a bunch of that knowledge. You learned it at a low price point, and you were safe. You didn't have some rodeo that like killed you and your buddy. So it's pretty cool. They're a gateway drug to pack animals.
So one of the cool things about llamas and goats, they kind of have a 4-wheel drive. They kind of go wherever you can go. I have to imagine burros, you can't really do that. Like, you're not going to, can they go like some places goats can go? Cause there's sometimes like I make some pretty stupid decisions in the backcountry sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Right. Like, it is like you're going elk hunting. Like, they just take you places that you never should have went. So do you need a trail for these things, or can they kind of cut trail?
Yeah. No, I did a really good, a pretty decent pack out of 2 miles on trail, 6 miles of trail, this fall with a full bull elk, that I got during archery season. They're not going to be quite as agile as a llama, or definitely not as agile as a goat, as far as when it comes to like blow down. That's the one thing that kicks their
Yeah.
butt. So if you end up with blow down that's more than knee high, there's a lot of Colorado, Idaho, Montana that is dead beetle kill blow down now, and that does kick our butt because you either have to cut your way in, like if you're going to go recover an animal, or you have to spend a lot of time just weaving your way all the way through stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I think of one spot this year I heard a burn, and I was like, that would have been a nightmare with those things because it was like, it just you just had to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and if we were able to jump over some stuff, so I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that's where goats would have a major advantage. Llamas, I don't think there is much. There might be a little bit of an extra advantage as far as off trail on some of the steeper stuff. Like if you're going to go up something that has a heavy duff layer up a steep mountainside, that they might have a little advantage. That being said, I've taken these burros into some gnarly places, but my experience when I've shot elk, you're usually closer to a route than you think you are. So you know, I might have to pack that thing, a quarter mile up onto a ridge, or
okay, I got you
somewhere else that I can get animals in. But most of my elk, I've been able to get right to the kill site. And I've hunted a lot of southern Colorado, hard beetle kill. Yeah. So it hasn't been as much of an. I thought it was going to be a bigger issue. I'm like, I'm going to be stuck on the trail. It hasn't been as bad as I thought. So.
And so you're probably doing, I mean, a bull realistically 150 pounds of meat, 200 pounds of meat, maybe on a bull. Are you doing a couple trips? You're just doing like loading them up, let's go out.
Yeah. So I found like, if like a 3.5, 4.5-year-old bull, that like 5-point small six is somewhere around 200 pounds boned out. Call it 180 to 220. Like I've shot some bigger ones that are closer to 220 pounds of meat. We've done it all in one load. So give you this.
You can now carry 50 pounds, I guess I take it. So now it's like, oh no, I have to carry a 50-pound quarter out. Like that's not too terrible.
No,
right?
No,
I guess you're part of the equation. You're not a 100-pound pack like most of us regular folks. You're a 50-pound pack on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, use the actual example from this fall. So we were 8 miles from the truck. 6 of that was on the trailhead. 2 of that miles was right at kind of tree line. There was still some definitely down stuff we had to go through, but did 2 miles off trail. I put that full elk on him. I did the hindquarters on my bigger burro, which he's right about 500 pounds. I put the front quarters on my one that's a little bit smaller. The horns went on the horns went on the burro too. So again, I've got a cool video. I think it's somewhere on our Instagram. It's me drinking a coffee cup, leading these burros out, on our pack out, just enjoying life, just packing a bowl out, drinking a cup of coffee. It's pretty awesome. So.
That's rad. That's it's intriguing. It's not in my deck of cards right now. Like we live, like I said, kind of in the city on like a 3rd acre. We have a pool. Like I don't know where to put the donkeys at. So, but it definitely is intriguing to do. Like I definitely want to have that at some point in my life, some way to get animals around and like just get back deeper. It's not that I feel like you start to learn. Like everyone gets all mad. Like, oh, you're not that old. Like the older you get, like it doesn't matter how much I train. Mm-hmm. Like things are just slowing down. Right. It's inevitable. Like I get out with my kids and like, they don't train at all. I train 5-6 days a week, riding bikes and running and doing my stuff. Like they get out there and they're just like slamming a Monster and some freaking Snickers bars. And they're just like pounding hills. You know what I mean? I'm just like, what the heck, So I definitely could see the benefit of having stock and doing this. I'm actually kind of intrigued. Maybe have Livesay on and Lampers on, like talk about goats and talk about llamas, like kind of like make us a series out of this. It's kind of like, I think it's very popular. I think it's very popular right now. I think everyone's kind of like looking at this and seeing this as an option to extend it, right? I think you see like Newberg kind of really, I don't know if Newberg pioneered it, but he kind of like brought the light onto it. And then like he started getting the llamas, extending his career as a hunter with these llamas, getting out there. Because if anyone can hunt from the truck and a side-by-side, right? But it's like to get where we want to go, like you need to get things out unless you have a crew of guys with you, because it's hard. And you could do it. And I think the biggest thing for me isn't doing it once. It's like the amount of time I'm hunting now, like the recovery time isn't there, right? Like I'll come off some of these hunts and I'm just like, you could ask my camera crew, like we just go 10 days straight. You just go, you get off the mountain and like, you're trying to recover for a week and then you're back in the truck going out again. And that recovery time is what's hard. Like you just don't have that there. And these llamas would really, on some of those hunts, really help, having there.
Yeah.
I'm curious though. So like Livesay said, he brings the llamas right along with him and it actually helps with the elk. Like, are you leaving the donkeys back at camp? Are you using these donkeys as decoys? What are you doing with these things? Is there a cheat code here?
No, I don't. I leave them at camp. I put them in the little portable electric fence. They stay and they live there for as long as I'm there. I've seen some folks, people have seen the video clips of like, some of the goats, some of the bulls being shot with the goats like right there in the background, and that's cool. That seems like a giant pain. It also seems if you're hunting places like Colorado where muzzle loader is in the middle of archery season.
Oh gosh, you're gonna get your bum shot.
And you got a brown donkey behind you.
Yeah.
So I don't. So they stay at camp. So how that kind of works is, so you pack in, and then I try to find a place that has good water, good feed, all kind of right there, all the things you'd want for a camp, anyways. And then I have a little portable electric fence I put out so I don't have to feed them. One of the big issues with horses and mules is trying to a lot of times people will hobble them or put, little horse handcuffs on them. And you have to get up early, let them eat, go to bed late, let them eat. That electric fence allows them to, get all the nutrition they need. So I don't have to worry about that. The other nice thing is, this is, I guess, getting into some of my pet peeves, hunting the backcountry a lot the last 10 years. I see a lot of guys backpack hunters camp in places they absolutely should not camp. Up
on top of ridges instead of down where the water is. I saw it so much this year in Colorado. I'm like, why are you camped right there in this saddle that I'm trying to glass? You're camped right why are you camping there? Makes no sense.
Why are you camped right where I saw elk 6 hours ago?
I saw it a couple times this year. It was baffling.
Yeah, it got really frustrating this year. It was just it was like, okay, we're gonna work the elk over here, and then some of you run into some backpackers camp, and they'd be setting up or whatever, and be like, we're gonna have such a great. I'm like,
one bull in particular I lost this year because of somebody that came in at like 11 o'clock at night and decided to camp a half mile above the water up on like right where this like flat, like you're trying to hunt these shells right here, like right below. He just blew the elk out, and I'm just like, dude, where did you come? You don't notice them until it's already like 7 or 8 a.m. You're just like, where did you come from? And you camped in the wrong spot. I get it.
Yeah. So I guess maybe the point I was trying to make was like the animals keep you from doing dumb decisions like that. It's really nice. Because I'll camp further away from elk. So like I'll hike 5 miles in, and I'm super refreshed. I don't mind hiking another half mile in the morning.
Yeah, 100%.
A mile in the morning because I'm fresh. Versus like backpack hunting, you were like I started as a backpack hunter, and you'll be like, I want to be as close as I can. Like I really do not want to walk, another 1,000 feet uphill in the morning. So it keeps you from doing stupid things like that.
I get that too. Like it's kind of off this. I mean, it isn't off topic. It's the whole thing's about backpacking and stuff. But like, I find like, dude, because I've done the top camp ridges and you have to hike down to the water and make water, and then go back up with your water. Like, it's nice just to camp down there. Like, it's not hard to hike in. Like I love backpack hunting, right? Or camping in the hills. Even if I'm like in San Diego, I'd love to camp in the hills where I hunt, because then you don't have to get up. If I get up and I'm already back 5 miles, I only got to go a couple ridges. It's not that bad. Like, just go up, you can do a mile in the morning, whatever. And anyone can tell you that hunts with me, like, that's going to turn to 10 miles no matter what. Anyways, like, somehow we're going to be like, let's go over there. Like, it's like I get bored in the middle of the day and I just start working ridges and glassing canyons and doing stuff, right? Like, so like, no matter what you're getting, like, it's shocking how far you can make it in a day anyways. Like, you ever look back and you're like, wow, how did I do 8 miles? Like, camp is right there, and I just somehow did this. So like, I don't know. I like the idea of just like being within like a couple hundred yards of water, quarter mile of water at the farthest, and then hiking out from there. Like, I like the idea of making a base camp back there, then going from there, not trying to camp in the animals. Cause like you smell your wind swirling at night. Like, don't camp on where you're trying to kill animals. Like, stay out of it and then get up there,
Yep. I 100% agree. So it's having the pack animals has been wonderful. I mean, the things it opens up to you as a backpack hunter, are awesome. It's great for your kids. The racing side of it with the burros has been a whole cool new addition. That there's not, I mean, horses and stuff, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with horses, but the racing keeps them in really good shape. I've arguably got some of the best in shape animals. There are donkeys on the planet. They are They're in incredible shape.
That's a nice ass.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard all the puns. Like, yeah.
Do you ever get done with the puns? I mean, is it just like, do you have T-shirts and stuff? It has to be like this.
Yeah, badass, fast ass, like all the ass jokes for sure. Yeah,
it just never stops.
It never stops. But at the same time, it's like, well, like mine are pretty badass. So like
my kids' favorite verses in the scripture are definitely about asses.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
100%. Let's read that part.
We've done movies with the burros. Every Christmas we get asked to do nativity scenes. I actually, one of my side businesses is doing tequila burros or wedding donkeys. So if you're looking for some extra income, that's pretty neat. So we have a little shot rack that sits on the pack saddle of the donkey, and we go and do tequila burros at weddings. So
how many donkeys do you have now?
Just two. I keep just two. Sometimes I'll rotate ones in and out that need training, and other ones I pick up. But I just keep two. I keep it simple. Keep that feed bill low.
2 donkeys. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Hey, so we're getting close to an hour. We always try to wrap around there. We always enter the hunting story. So it's just give me a donkey hunting story, man. Give me a hunting story, or it doesn't have to be all the donkeys, but just give me a hunting story. It doesn't have to be your biggest animal, your favorite story, man. Just a good campfire donkey story.
Yeah, good campfire donkey story. Let me think
involving hunting.
Yeah. We've had some really neat ones. Probably one of the probably one of my favorite is I think I was my second year I had these donkeys. So I'm going back to the opening story. I had the older donkey, and then I had my hood rat Julia from the South Valley, and I took him up to Montana. So I'm going up there in my truck, just a little 2-horse trailer, learning all about this. I just bought the donkeys. This might have been my first year. So I bought the donkeys like that spring, and this is the fall.
It's crazy how fast your entry is to this. Like, it seems to me like it's going to be years of training, but you're just grabbing these donkeys out of a freaking BLM pen, essentially, and taking them hunting.
Yeah, pretty much. Just lots of, so quick side tangent. On our YouTube channel, I've got 100 days. 100 days for a donkey. I forget exactly what I called it, but my BLM burro I got in April, and first week of September I took him on an elk hunt. So less than 100 days.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going up to Montana. My little jalopy setup. My dad drew a mountain goat tag this year, and then I had over-the-counter elk tag. We are just north of Yellowstone Park, so like primo grizzly country, like the biggest.
Yeah, I was curious about this.
Yeah, the most highest density grizzly population in the United States. So kind of out there outside of West Yellowstone, and so yeah, we get up there and we are cutting grizzly tracks the whole way through. It's starting to snow. It's mid-September. And it's starting to snow and rain. The outfitter is actually pulling out because there's supposed to be a bigger snowstorm coming. And we end up hunting. We get to camp 7 miles in, set up camp without a whole lot of issues. But the whole next day we're cutting grizzly tracks. We find a few mountain goats in the snow, which turns out is really difficult. End up shooting a goat.
You don't say. White animals on white snow.
glassing up grizzlies. The whole time I am stressed out. It was just an incredible, amazing trip. We ended up packing out that goat 7 miles. We did camp and the goat on the burros, which is tough to do, the dead animal plus your camp and all your stuff in one trip. Usually you have to do separate trips. But we packed it all out. This is the burros. I think it's the burros' first true backcountry hunt. But the cool part of the story is there was this big, like 500-foot drop, and the trail was just this switchback, like zigzag, typical switchback, and it was so muddy and so snowy that it was pretty much just a slip and slide. And the burros just kind of sat back on their butts, put their feet out, and just slid down like a half-mile, 500-foot drop into the Gallatin, one of the forks of the Gallatin there, and it was just amazing. They had come from backyards, and here we are in Montana doing a mountain goat hunt in the snow with grizzly bears. It was insane. I'll never forget how hardworking those animals were that week. They busted their butt, so it was cool.
That is awesome, dude. So any of our listeners who wants to get some burros for me to use, go ahead and do that, because I'm not getting one here. But hopefully I can go over and hang out with Shane's at some point. Maybe I'll do a hunt this year if they're with Chad or something. We can drag your burros along or something, dude.
No, that'd be cool.
It sounds like you got a bunch of stuff going on with your YouTube and stuff. Let's plug that stuff. Where do we find you guys? We'll talk about your Instagram.
Yeah. So everything, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, it's all NM as New Mexico packburros.com, or NM Pack Burros across all the sites. YouTube's cool. I've got some videos on there as far as where to find a burro. I've got a few episodes of building a backcountry burro is what I called it. I've got a few episodes of me taking that BLM burro all the way through training and then ending it with a backcountry hunt. So you get to see that whole process. And yeah, I'm just a dude. I found these animals. They're awesome, and not nearly as well respected as they should be. So if anyone got any questions, I answer questions about burros and adoptions and training and all that all the time. So shoot me a DM. I'm the guy behind all the social media.
Again, that's New Mexico NM Pack Burros.
Yep.
On Instagram. So NM Pack Burros on Instagram, YouTube, and the website. Sweet, dude. Shane, you're the man, bro. I'm excited to check these burros out, dude.
Absolutely. Also, don't forget there's some races in Southern California and Arizona. So I think you should do one.
I should do one. I'll ride my dirt bike. I'll follow you.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan.
Cool, dude. Thank you for listening to the Tricer Podcast. Do us a favor and like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Tricer USA, and go and check out all of our innovative gear at www.tricerusa.com. Until next time, shoot straight, have fun, and always put God first.